What's happening everyone, my name is Alex and welcome back. For this camera comparison we have the brand new Xiaomi 12T and then we have the iPhone 14 Pro. Now don't misunderstand the purpose of this camera comparison, I'm simply trying to show you what a budget-friendly device like the Xiaomi 12T can do when compared to a flagship like the iPhone 14 Pro. Also remember the price of an iPhone 14 Pro is about 3 times higher than the price of the Xiaomi 12T, probably even more than that, so keep that in mind as well. Alright, so as always throughout this video we are gonna see a variety of daytime and nighttime sample pictures and videos. We have portrait mode pictures, we have pictures taken with the ultra wide cameras, we have zoom pictures and much more. Don't forget to press that like button and let's begin by checking out some portrait mode pictures that I took with both devices. Alright, so of course we have some pictures of myself, just in case you wanted to see a bit more of me. So looking at the edge detection around the subject, so around me, it seems that both devices do fairly good, so not that big of a difference for the edge detection. Now for color accuracy, if you look at my close, both devices do pretty well, I'm gonna say. I actually prefer the colors that we get from the Xiaomi 12T a bit more than the ones that we get from the iPhone 14 Pro. But then when you look at my face and my skin's color, I feel that the iPhone 14 Pro does better. So for that, I feel that the iPhone 14 Pro, of course, will do better for portrait mode pictures than the Xiaomi 12T. Moving on to some 5x zoom pictures that I took. Well, here keep in mind that the iPhone 14 Pro does have a telephoto lens on the back. We don't have a telephoto lens on the back of the 12T. So of course, every single picture that you're gonna take with the iPhone 14 Pro will be better than the same picture that you're gonna take with the Xiaomi 12T, because the Xiaomi 12T does have to do digital zoom all the way, where we have some optical zoom on the pictures taken by the iPhone 14 Pro. Moving on to some ultra-wide pictures, well, the first thing you'll notice here is the fact that the iPhone 14 Pro has the somewhat wider field of view, so you can see a bit more in those pictures. Now for color accuracy, I actually find that Xiaomi 12T does better in every single picture than the iPhone 14 Pro. The iPhone 14 Pro has a bit more saturated colors, I'm gonna say, so the Xiaomi 12T does have the colors closer to what I was seeing with my own eyes. Now, unfortunately, those pictures from the 12T aren't as sharp as the pictures that we get from the 14 Pro, and also dynamic range seems to be better in most pictures taken by the iPhone 14 Pro. So once again, for that ultra-wide camera, I feel that the iPhone will do better than the 12T. Next we are moving on and checking out some pictures that I took with the main cameras on the back of the two devices, and once again all the pictures were taken maybe about a second apart from each other. Alright, so first looking at the colors in those pictures. If you are looking for the phone that has the more realistic colors, the Xiaomi 12T will do better for you. But if you want more vibrant looking pictures, you're probably gonna like the pictures taken by the iPhone 14 Pro. As for picture sharpness, yes, the iPhone 14 Pro does have the somewhat sharper pictures, but the iPhone is also using a lot more contrast in those pictures, therefore making them look sharper than they actually are. So there is a lot of contrast in those pictures taken by the iPhone 14 Pro, but at the same time a lot of people may actually like that more contrasty look because it does make the picture stand out a bit more. As for dynamic range, well, in some of those pictures the iPhone does better, and in some of those pictures the Xiaomi 12T does better. But which pictures do you guys prefer? The ones from the Xiaomi 12T or the ones from the iPhone 14 Pro? Definitely leave a comment and let me know your thoughts. Alright, and next we're gonna move on and check out some pictures that I took at night with both devices, with the main cameras and of course with the ultra-wide cameras, and we are starting with the pictures that I took with the main cameras and of course using the night mode. So the night mode was used in all the pictures that you're seeing right now. Now looking at those pictures, well, here you can definitely see the difference for the picture quality. So I guess that much more expensive price from the iPhone 14 Pro does have a reason behind it. So pretty much all the pictures that I took at night are sharper from the iPhone 14 Pro. Not to mention if you are in a super dark place, because it was super dark in some of those pictures, the Xiaomi 12T doesn't do good at all. If you have some lights around you, some street lights, for example, it does much better, but in those situations where it's super dark, wherever you're taking pictures, you can barely see anything in those pictures taken by the Xiaomi 12T. So of course, for the main camera and the night mode pictures, of course, the iPhone 14 Pro will do better than the Xiaomi 12T. And moving on to the ultra-wide cameras and of course using the night mode, well, here it seems that we have an even bigger difference. Now the iPhone 14 Pro doesn't do that exceptionally good with that ultra-wide camera. It's actually pretty poor when comparison to other phones. But the 12T does worse than the iPhone 14 Pro. So once again, all the pictures that I took with the iPhone 14 Pro are a bit sharper. They're brighter and so on. So once again, for nighttime pictures, using that night mode and the ultra-wide camera, the iPhone 14 Pro will do better, but I was kind of expecting that, mostly taking in consideration that price difference between the two devices. Next, we're gonna move on and check out some sample video recordings that I've done with the Xiaomi 12T and of course the iPhone 14 Pro. And I have to say I was quite surprised by the video quality that we got from the main camera and the 12T. It's actually better than last year's 11T, at least in my opinion. You're gonna see that for yourself. The videos are crispier, the video stabilization is pretty good. Not to mention the internal microphone in the 12T is definitely better than the internal microphone that we have inside the iPhone 14 Pro. So I'll let you guys watch those sample recordings and I will be right back. Alright, we have a quick video test between the iPhone 14 Pro and of course the Xiaomi 12T. For this recording I'm using the main cameras on the back of the two devices and recording in 4K at 30 frames per second. 4K at 30 frames per second is the maximum recording resolution for the Xiaomi 12T. With the iPhone 14 Pro we could also do 4K at 60 frames per second. So I'm gonna stop here, we're gonna pan left slowly. I'm gonna walk this way. I'll also start walking a bit faster just so you can see how the video stabilization works for both devices. So yeah, this is how recording done with the main cameras on the back of these two devices would look like if you're recording in 4K at 30 frames per second. And we're moving on to a quick recording done with the ultra-wide cameras on the back of the two devices. So if you're using the ultra-wide camera on the back of the Xiaomi 12T, the maximum recording resolution is 1080p at 30 frames per second. Of course, with the iPhone 14 Pro, the maximum recording resolution is 4K at 60 frames per second. So I'm also trying to walk a bit faster so you can see how that stabilization works whenever walking a bit faster. We're gonna stop here, we're gonna pan right, and we'll walk this way. So yeah, this is how recording would look like under these conditions basically. And we are moving on to a quick recording done with the front-facing cameras on the Xiaomi 12T and of course on the iPhone 14 Pro. Now the maximum recording resolution for the Xiaomi 12T with the front-facing camera is 1080p at 60 frames per second. We are currently doing 1080p at 30 frames per second, where on the iPhone 14 Pro the maximum recording resolution for the front-facing camera of course is 4K at 60 frames per second. I'm also walking so you can see how the video stabilization works while walking. We're gonna pan around and we'll walk this way. So yeah, this is how recording done with the front-facing cameras on these two devices would look like. Alright, and we are moving on to a quick recording in low light between the iPhone 14 Pro and of course the Xiaomi 12T. For this recording I'm using the main cameras on the back of the two devices and recording in 4K at 30 frames per second. So I'm just gonna pan left and back right and we'll walk this way. So yeah, this is how recording in low light using the main cameras on the back of these two devices would look like. Alright, and we are moving on to our second recording in low light between the 12T and of course the iPhone 14 Pro. So for this recording I'm using the ultra-wide cameras on the back of the two devices, and with the iPhone I'm recording in 4K at 30 frames per second, where with the Xiaomi 12T I'm recording in 1080p at 30 frames per second. That is the maximum recording resolution for that ultra-wide camera. So I guess we'll walk this way. We do have plenty of street lights around. And we'll cross the street and walk this way. So yeah, this is how the ultra-wide cameras on the back of these two devices would record videos at night. So what do you guys think about those sample recordings from the Xiaomi 12T? Definitely an improvement from what we've seen in the past from Xiaomi, mostly with the main camera, of course, because the ultra-wide camera is not that impressive, not to mention the maximum recording resolution for the ultra-wide camera is only about 1080p. So the main camera on the back of the 12T is definitely an improvement from last year's 11T, I'm gonna say. Alright, moving on to some selfies. Unfortunately, I forgot to take some more daytime selfies, so I only have one of those. Well, the iPhone 14 Pro does seem to do better for the daytime selfies and for the nighttime selfies compared to the 12T. So there you have it, the Xiaomi 12T and the iPhone 14 Pro. What do you guys think about the Xiaomi 12T? Is it worth its price? Should have been better? What do you guys think? Definitely leave a comment and let me know your thoughts. Alright guys, hopefully this video was useful. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.